Okay, call the meeting to order. Want to start with the Pledge of Allegiance? Sure. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America,
to the
to the republic,
which
which
stands one nation,
one nation,
under
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. I need to get a motion to approve the minutes for the May 4th meeting. Everybody get a chance to look at them?
Make a motion to approve the meetings from the May 4th meeting.
Okay,
Dan Stiser, Mitchell.
have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi, Nick Teodosio.
Aye.
Aye, John Uhalski.
I think I have to say it after a second.
No.
Jim Pertella votes aye. I think we're unanimous, right? Public comment. Do we get any correspondence anybody know of? I didn't get anything.
Jonathan, did you
So ask for
receive
public comment.
anything? Jonathan, did you receive anything in the mail, email or anything for public comment?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Nothing? Okay. We have a topic of vehicle inspection and maintenance.
Who wants to start off?
This is Ben Proto. I had asked Jonathan to put this item on the agenda. As you know, last month, the first selectman had requested information regarding I believe there's 5 vehicles that are town-owned vehicles that are utilized by the WPCA. He had requested information regarding inspection records, which Veolia provided. I had forwarded to all the board members as well as the first selectman. Then asked to acquire and asked Veolia, and Veolia responded and provided those today, which I sent to everyone. The usage record for the flush truck. This topic came up, I believe, during last meeting in regards specifically to the flush truck, and the first selectman had asked for information related to all the vehicles.
Can I ask if you're not speaking to mute your phone because we're getting a lot of feedback?
That's better.
So the topic is on the agenda for, I wanted to make everyone aware of the request, the information that was provided, which was sent out to all the board members. And then if there's any questions by any of the board members or discussion by any of the board members, I thought this would be appropriate at this time.
Okay. This is Jim Pertella. Does anybody else have a comment on that?
I do. I guess I'll start off. How's that? So
Okay.
going through the DVIRs, going through the annual inspections, I have a couple of questions on the flush truck and a couple of questions on the tow truck. Not the tow truck, the dump truck. Hold on one. Sorry about that. So I'm looking at the flush truck DVIRs, and all I have are inspection sheets from January 8th to 2020, February 28th, 2020, March 11th, 2020. Nothing from April, and I have one from May. Is the odometer broken on that truck?
Yes.
Why isn't that noted on any of the inspections? I know it's not mandatory that we note that, but we shouldn't note that down, that the odometer is broken.
That's
all
what
the-
we're, go ahead.
Because the odometer is reading is 9,173.6. I also noticed that we only have pre or post. We only have one or the other inspection sheets. We're supposed to pre and we're supposed to post under the regulation. And I just received today from the first selectman, he sent it over, that the truck was used on January 22nd. Hold on. It was used on January 2nd, 2020 to clean out a siphon, but I don't have an inspection sheet for it.
January
Yeah,
7th.
the retention, this is John Oatley with Veolia. The DOT required retention of those inspection reports is 3 months. So we have our retention policy consistent with the federal requirement for maintaining the inspection reports.
But you gave me one from January 8th.
Again, it's 3 months from the last time it was used, so.
Okay, so we can throw out that sheet then. So let me ask why on May 1st, it's just a question I have. On May 1st, we had the truck go out over to the WPCA, over to the Public Works to have its inspection done, right? To have its annual done. Granted, it didn't really leave property because it's still on a contiguous piece of property.
This is John
Right.
Oatley, that's correct. It's in the same parking lot.
And the person did do an inspection on it and everything was good on it.
Okay, what's your question?
The mechanic found a bunch of things wrong.
Again, it's a visual inspection, Anne Marie. It's not meant to be a detailed mechanical inspection that I'm sure the Public Works mechanic provided.
The air brakes, they don't check that?
They checked the functionality of the brakes, yes, and the brakes were functioning. I think the issue you're raising is whether there was some water collected in the reservoir of air.
Okay.
Which,
What about the
you know,
horn?
I beg your pardon?
The horn.
Is it, again, this is John Oatley with Veolia. If the inspection requires a horn check and it's not done, we'll obviously address that with our driver. But I don't have the form in front of me, but I don't know if he checked off if the horn was working or not.
The horn, he has nothing checked off. Oh, he has everything checked off because nothing is checked. So I don't know if that means
Well, the
everything
way the
is
form
good.
works, this is John, the way the form works is you're supposed to only note the things that are not functioning according to
Okay.
that list.
Okay. All right. What about the dump truck?
What about it?
So the dump truck also says that everything is good on it. And I'm just going back to make sure, but yet the truck was towed for the fuel tank fuel gauge not working properly on 2/28/2020. May, June. So there's no DBIR written for February 28th. And then the fuel gauge was not working on the Sterling dump.
Okay. Has that been corrected?
I don't have a DVR that says it was. I have it from Chippy's that says that the fuel tank wasn't working, but I don't, on the work ticket, it doesn't say that they replaced the fuel gauge or they repaired the fuel gauge.
He replaced a fuel sending unit. I think it should be on his report somewhere.
Alana, give me 5 minutes to get out the driveway and look the dogs out.
So you're checking, hold on, there's people moving around the house, so I have to. So you're saying that it's only a visual inspection. It's not, they're not checking anything else.
Yeah, that's a walk around. They check the lights. They have to move the truck and check the brakes to make sure they function. I don't have the form in front of me, but there's a list of things that they're required to check.
The horn, the starting components. It's hands-on, not visual. I mean, that's how I was taught to teach a class, that it's hands-on and not a visual, just a visual inspection.
Well, I guess if your question is, are you requesting us do a much more thorough job, then yes, Emery, we will perform a much more thorough job with the assistance of our technical group.
I would appreciate that, only because I want the trucks to be inspected per the regulation, and unless in pre and post trip as required underneath the regulation. I see one sheet of paper, and I'm only asking because I see one sheet of paper, so I don't know if it's a pre-trip or if it's a post-trip.
It's a pre-trip before they use the truck.
And we don't do post, and so, okay, so it's pre, not post. We do not do post. Is it safe to say we don't do post-trips?
Yes, it's safe to say they perform one inspection prior to the truck leaving the premises. Again, this is John Oatley speaking.
Thank you.
But our goal is to satisfy the WPCA's request, and we will do so.
All right, so I don't know that truck very well, so I'm going to rely on your knowledge of this. How's that?
Which truck are you referring to?
I'm still in the flush truck.
Okay.
Sorry. Once again, it's Anne-Marie speaking. Is there a gauge outside on that truck to show the PSI on the on that brakes? So like it says, the mechanics thing said, the air tank will not build up pressure beyond 60 PSI, needs to be at 120 PSI. Is there a gauge on there that the driver would know, the person doing the inspection would know what the PSI they would be at is?
I don't have that specific information. I can find that out for you, but I know in my experience driving air vehicles, if you have a low air pressure, there's usually an alarm that comes up on the dashboard, but I will take that question and respond back to you.
Okay. Again, these are just questions I have, not knowing this truck, but just questions I have. On the inspection sheet from Public Works, it says the air compressor was was leaking oil. I don't know, again, if that's a visual oil where you can see that it's visually leaking or not. If that is, could you just check to see if from the air compressor if they can see that it's visually leaking or not?
John Oatley speaking. Yes, we will.
Okay. And then I got one more on a couple more on this is still in the flush truck, okay? The muffler and exhaust pipe is rotted according to the inspection sheet from Public Works Maintenance when he was doing the annual inspection. The muffler and exhaust pipe is rotted. But on the DVIR, there is nothing checked to say that it's not. That would be a visual.
Yeah, I don't know what I can speak. I'll talk to the inspector, but I don't imagine that they're climbing under the truck inspecting the muffler and exhaust pipe, similar to what you would expect a mechanic to do during a vehicle inspection certification.
Okay. And do we know, I know that there's a tank on that truck that holds water. I know the hoses are pressurized, and correct me if I'm wrong. But is there an integrity test on that tank to ensure that it is capable of holding, that it's not eventually rusting out, as we know that truck is 1990, almost 30 years old, if not more?
The tank itself is not pressurized. I believe there's a booster system that takes the correct me if I'm wrong, Walter, but I believe the tank itself is a reservoir of water. I believe
the plastic tank.
There's a booster system that boosts the pressure of water to allow the jetting to occur.
Okay.
So an integrity test would probably just involve seeing if it leaks. But if
Yeah.
you would like us to send it out to have it pressure tested, we could certainly arrange to have that done.
Yeah, just because how old that truck is, and we want to make sure everything on that truck is working properly. We would hate to sit there and God forbid have that tank go, right? It is
Could I
30
speak for a
years
minute? This is Walter.
Go ahead.
Hello? The tank is a plastic tank and it's open on the top, so it's not pressurized. It's just a reservoir that holds the water. And there's actually no leaks in the tank. I mean, it's not leaking on the floor or on the ground anywhere when it's, I mean, if we just fill the tank, it may have some splash on it or something like that, but when it's just sitting there, there's no leaks. And we drain the pressure side of the pump from the tank to the pump so that it doesn't stay full of water.
Okay, that answered that question. All right, so now it's Anne Marie. Can I ask a question on the dump truck? I know I have a lot of DVIRs for the dump truck going back a couple of years. And on February 28th, 2020, Chippy's had to tow it because it ran out of gas. The fuel gauge wasn't working.
Right.
Okay.
But on the DVIR, nothing was mentioned on that. I keep going back to these DVIRs, John, because I have that play over of that scene where that tractor trailer was overturned on Route 8. And I keep going back because these are town-owned vehicles. And I can't, as a WPCA board member, right? These are town-owned, and it is my understanding that even though you guys are using them, you're maintaining them to ensure that they're being they're being maintained properly. And if something is wrong with it, I would expect it to be brought up to this board. And Walter has, in all fairness to Walter, he has brought up major concerns and major things that have to be done to these trucks. But I go back to your drivers because I know how hard you guys invest in your drivers, making sure they keep up with their DOT licenses, and you guys give them extra to make sure they have their CDLs, right? But I have to make sure that they're inspecting these trucks properly and we're documenting it properly, because God forbid if something should happen on the road with these trucks, it's the town's butt, to be nice.
Hey, Marie, this is John Otley. I agree with everything you just said. I can tell you that Walter has spoken to each and every driver of the vehicles to remind them of the importance of that inspection. We will include a post-inspection and begin providing those to the board. That being said, I take pride in the fact that we've been there for 25 years. We've never had a single vehicle accident or issue. That doesn't mean we rest on that laurel. And where we appear to need to do a better job in support of the board's wishes and the requirements, we will.
I can only speak as a member, not as a chair. I can speak as a member, but I would like to see these inspection reports and going forward at every monthly meeting. Pre and post per the federal regulation.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
I'm sorry I'm late. I had some trouble with my phone here. But to echo Anne Marie's concerns, one concern I have, that's, I don't know, there's keeping the loads of water on the truck. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I guess it's common practice where the flush truck, 1,000-gallon tank, and they load it with water and it just sits inside the garage. I don't think that's very good for the vehicle.
This is John Oatley. I can address. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, this is John Oatley. I can address that concern. If it's the commission's instruction for us not to keep the water in the tank, that's fine. The reason we do that is because every minute that we're delayed in responding to a sewage overflow, an SSO, is a minute of environmental impact that we've not been able to mitigate. So we do it to just be able to respond as fast as possible, not unlike fire trucks keep water on their trucks to respond as soon as possible. But again, that's if the commission's desire for us is to not do that, then we won't do that. But again, the rationale behind keeping water on the truck is response time and response time only.
It's Anne Marie. John, I understand that, and I get it, because we want to keep down any environmental impact that we possibly can, and I'm 100% for that. Do we know how long it takes to fill that 1,000 gallon flush truck out of that 3-inch hose?
It's 20 to 25, 30 minutes, depending on who's filling it.
20 to 25 minutes. Maybe 30, right?
Up to 30.
How many people go to a response? Is it 1 or 2?
You've got one person driving the truck, one person will drive another truck,
Okay,
and then you sometimes you need spotters or whatever.
absolutely. How long does it?
Let me ask you this.
And
Go ahead,
Hello?
Marie.
Is it possible to be filling that truck while you're doing your inspection?
No.
No?
So wait a minute, Anne Marie. Let me ask you this: when you're on a call and you absorb the whole tank of water in a blockage, are you then saying that it takes you a half an hour to reload with water?
yeah,
Is there something wrong with the vehicle that it's taking that long? Because I myself have run one of those vehicles, and it's no longer than 7 minutes to 10 minutes to load the tank. So I'm a little, I'm kind of understanding why it's taking so long to fill that tank with water.
from what I gather, it's been 20, 25 minutes or so.
This is John Oatley. Didn't we fill the truck today? Didn't we take possession of the truck back today
Yeah.
and fill it?
And we watched it, and it wasn't 20, 25 minutes that.
How long
He
was it?
didn't fill it all the way up.
It was
He didn't
about
fill it
10.
all the way up today.
Sorry, it's Anne Marie. It took about 10 minutes.
Again, every minute is important, but again, if it's the commission's direction to us to not fill the truck, we won't fill the truck. It's our recommendation that we keep the truck full. But again,
It's
it's not a hill I'm going to die on. If you don't want the truck filled with water, we won't.
Right. I would
Can
feel
I-
much
can I-
better. I personally would feel better if the truck was loaded before it went to take care of a call. I don't think it's appropriate to keep all that weight in the truck when it's sitting in the garage. There are stress points
Can I,
to the suspension, and it's really not a good practice to do that.
this is Nick Teodosi. Could I speak for a minute on this, please? I think when Walter and John are referring to a half an hour, 20 minutes, or whatever we want to call it, when you come in for an emergency, what they're saying is the truck is full and ready to go. Somebody comes in, they pop in the truck, they do their inspection, and they go. And hopefully they do their inspection that night before they leave, so they can just go. But when you come in, and then the guy's got to get the truck, and then he's got to climb up, get the hose, fill the truck, and get out of there, they probably burn a half an hour. I think that's what they're referring to it. I don't think I agree with you. I don't think it's taking a half hour to fill the truck. I think what they're trying to say is lost time for that particular emergency. I do a lot of emergency work myself, and I do know that when things are ready and the guys come in and they go, it's just a lot quicker. So in their defense, I think that's what they're.
Maybe this is part of the problem why the pre-trips aren't really being conducted in a proper way. You know, I mean, every time you get in the vehicle, as you know, and under the CDL guidelines, that the driver and operator is supposed to pre-trip the vehicle.
But that's a walk-around inspection. That's
No,
not
it's not. Well,
they
yeah,
don't,
but while the truck's being
they're not
loaded with water, they could be doing their pre-trip.
well, I wouldn't want my guy walking around the truck when somebody was loading it with water. I wouldn't think. I don't know that. I don't know exactly the process of how they fill it with water. Hose could fly. Is it a direct connection? Is it something that goes on the top of? I don't know.
It's a hose
It's a hose.
connection.
Yeah.
This is John.
Fire hose, a garden hose, 2-inch hose, or what?
It's a, I'm going to say 2.5-inch, 3-inch hose.
All right, so it's coming out of, yeah, so I'm sure you have to be careful when you're filling the truck then, right?
Yeah.
The hose gets
It is-
away from you, yeah.
It's got a fire hose connection on one end and a cam lock on the other end.
Okay. But is it a direct connection to the truck, or is it just dropped in the tank?
It's a direct.
No, it's a direct connection.
Look,
If it would
I'm
be
just
helpful,
looking at
if this is
terms
John
of-
Lee, if it would be helpful, what we can do for the next meeting is we can do a couple of things. We can develop a specific standard operating procedure for filling the truck, in which case we'll document the time that it takes, and we'll present that at the next meeting, and then we can further discuss whether or not it's reasonable to have it full or not at that point. But I'd like to get you as much accurate information about it as possible.
I
Thank you,
mean,
John. Sam Marie, thank you, John. Nick, did you say they didn't have to do inspections?
No, they do, that pre-trip inspection is a walk-around inspection of the truck.
It's a
They're not
visual.
required
inspection.
to-
but it takes time to do
Right.
that.
Hold on, Tony. What was that, Nick?
Yeah, it takes about 10 minutes to do a walk around of the truck. You check the tires, check the lights, tap the brakes. Our guys do them every morning on their trucks, and then if there's a problem, they bring them down to the shop, and they won't leave the yard until it's repaired.
Okay, this is Anne Marie. I want to make sure that I am perfectly clear when I say this. Those trucks, they have to be pre and post trip per the CFR, per the DOT, Federal Motor Carriers regulation. Whether it's one thinks it's just a visual, you have to check the brakes, so it's visual and it's a physical inspection. Per the Federal Motor Carriers, it must be done that way. I want to make sure there's no misunderstanding of that. Those are trucks that require a CDL driver. Those are trucks that require those inspections to be done properly.
Emery, this is John Oatley. Your concerns have been taken. I agree with them, and you have my assurance that those concerns will be addressed satisfactorily.
Thank you. And John, I want to make sure that I can come across harshly, and sometimes I have been called mean, but understand that Veolia has been in there for 25 to 30 years, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and I understand our board changes, it can change consistently because of our charter. We can change the board every 4 years. It's whatever selectman sits in that position, he can change that board as it needs. And I need to make sure that now that this board understands, or the following board, and the board after that, and if Veolia has a contract now, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25 years down the road, that it is understood that no matter what board, no matter what members are sitting on this board, it is the priority of Veolia, and I'm not saying that it's not, but I need to make sure that it's perfectly clear that the priority of Veolia is to not only run the plant to the plant's permit, through state and federal regulations, but also any equipment owned, including vehicles that are owned by the town of Seymour, are maintained to state and federal regulations.
This is John Oatley. Emery, our highest goal is our employees' safety. I mean, we do not compromise that. I think that's emblematic in the safety record we've enjoyed. That being said, we always strive to do better, and we are less than satisfactory to both you and anyone else. We will correct that. You have my assurance of that. So you have my personal assurance that we will adequately address your concerns with respect to the pre and post inspections, documentation as such, and with respect to the operations of the flush truck, filling or not filling. We'll get back to you by the next meeting with a procedure for that and how long it takes, and then, defer to the commission as how they would like us to go forward, filling or not filling the truck prior to use.
Do we have an average of how many times the truck goes out?
About 3 times a month on average.
So it's going out 3 times a month. And what's the average time the truck is out per call?
That's tricky, but I mean, if I had to guess, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 8 hours, depending on the blockage. Sometimes it takes days.
So
right?
I guess we're looking at.
Sometimes it's an easy
we're looking
blockage.
Right, I get you. We're looking at 24 hours. We'll say we'll calculate it on the high side for three times a month. I mean, you have to really think about the stress that you're putting on that equipment with all that weight just sitting on the truck.
This is John Oatley again. Where we operate collection systems with trucks similar, it's always been the case that they stay full of water. But again, they are town-owned vehicles, and we will defer to the commission in terms of how they would like us to utilize them.
Yeah. Is there an operations manual anywhere on file for that vehicle? Does anybody have a copy of one? Because usually with this equipment, you have your operations manual, which will stress, improper operations of the vehicle. I mean,
I can certainly look into that.
This
is John Oatley. I mean, it's a 1990s vehicle. I'll see what O&M manual at the plant exists or does not exist. Obviously,
right.
We took possession of the truck, several years after it was, commissioned by the commission. So.
Right. So I'm sure you can understand my concerns as a safety standpoint.
Absolutely.
So
Again,
1990 vehicle here.
Again, this is John Oatley.
My experience in that field, it was common practice that we never kept water in the tanks like that. Not when we weren't using the vehicle. So, you have
again, I respect your judgment.
But we might want to just double check the operations manual.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Like I said, by next meeting, I'll have that included, as well as kind of an overall procedure on filling it and how long it takes. And then we can make a decision at that point whether or not we keep it full or empty. But again, I'm not going to question anyone's judgment. We all have it, and I think it's a good collaborative discussion to have. So.
So if this is Nick again. So if something on that pre-trip fails, if a light is out or something's not functional, really that truck is not allowed to leave at that point. It has to be fixed before it goes out.
Well, it depends on the severity of the vehicle or the repair. If you're talking about a parking light, you'd probably be able to take the truck out, but you should make sure that it reaches our garage so we can put a bulb in there for you.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I don't know how that reads. I do know where I work. If there's any problem of blinker, a light, anything, the guys cannot leave. I didn't know if that was the law or if that's just our policy where I work.
It's the law.
Well,
Does anybody know the answer?
it's the law.
It's part of me? Okay, so then if these guys do come in, like you said, they come in, they load the truck, now they're going to load the truck, they do their pre-trip, and they do have a problem with something like that, what do they do at that point?
Why don't we let Chris Edwards, who's the mechanic, speak to that?
Okay. Just in case, because I know you want these guys to try to go right by the books. So now I'm just saying this, so they get into this situation where they have to go, they have to do something, and hopefully, like, that's where I was going before when I said, hopefully we could do like a post trip, which was a great idea too, because at least we kind of know it's going to be good to go out in an emergency, I just want to have them some avenue to turn to if this happens to them.
If it's that bad and we have a call, then you would call us, and if we need to, we'll have to get Chris in there and take a look at the truck.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, if they're going to stay legal, then we should try to go right down the line. And, that's just something I was thinking that could happen,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Safety is paramount. Look,
Right.
if there's an unsafe situation going on and there's a mechanical problem with the truck, we need to realize that, that truck goes out there and it's not safe, safely operating or functioning, and something happens. So that's the town of Seymour that's responsible for that. So, we got to be cognizant of that. Safety.
No, we do. And that's why I'd like to have a plan for these guys too. If that does happen to them, do they call in a mechanic? Do they call McVac? They have to respond.
Nick, I'm sure certain things you could write it down and you could provide it to the mechanic after the shift. And then obviously there's certain things that you can't.
Yeah, I think, this is John. I'm really happy with the discussion because I think some of the challenges we have with that flush truck is the infrequency in which it is used. It really is like a fire truck. It's used when it's called upon. So I think in lieu of the conversation we're having and to further address some of the concerns that are being raised tonight, I think what I may instruct Walter to do is I think we will do an inspection of that vehicle every day and document that inspection.
I like
that we feel confident that if we get called at 2:00 in the morning, doesn't relieve the CDL driver of doing the inspection, but we'll have some higher level of confidence that it's in good shape prior to that.
That works for me.
I'm glad you suggested that. I wanted to say that, and I was glad you came. I'm glad that's perfect.
I will notify the commission as well. I know Walter was going to talk about it in his report, but our most recent hire is a certified auto mechanic. So the most recent hire that's working for us now actually has a significant background in vehicle maintenance. So I think it's going to go a long way to help us get better in this regard as well.
All right. So in other words, you probably should have an inventory of light bulbs and things, fuses, where you could make small repairs so that the truck can go out safely. Right?
Yes, we do have some spares.
That's only probably good planning for preventative maintenance.
Yeah, we do maintain spare parts for almost all of our equipment, but again, we hear the concerns. Speaking to Dan Marie's prior point, Veolia is a service provider. I mean, we serve at the pleasure of our customers, and our goal is to meet your expectation. So that will be our charge going forward with respect to these vehicle inspection reports.
Thank you. Chris, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Chris Edwards, Public Works Mechanic, on your pre-trips. I do have a blank one. I'm looking for Veolia. It's a good pre-trip. It pretty much mimics the federal guidelines. I am also a state certified CDL instructor. I teach instruct probably 10 times a year. With that, you guys keep saying visual inspections. I'm not so much worried about the gym truck as I am the dump truck. You need to get on there and check every single component by hand and by sight that's on your pre-trip inspection. So let's take the drive line, for instance. If you drive down the road and you get pulled over, a DOT cop pulls out his creeper, it goes under, you got plate on your drive shaft. You're going to get red flag. He's going to get a ticket because he did not check it. A wheel lash, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but when the truck is off, go side to side with your steering wheel. You know, there's can only be 10 degrees each way in play. Okay, so that's a visual one. There's a lot to a pre-trip, and you got to do them right, especially with that dump truck that goes on the interstate. If your guys don't know, study it.
And you're absolutely right, Chris. You also should have your placards in the vehicle, especially the trucks that are going over the road and on the highway, which your, what is that, your tri-axle dump truck. You should have placards in the truck. You should have a wheel chalk in the truck, you know, because DOT is out there, and if they pull you over, these are the first things they look at. And the reason that you should have those items in the truck is should your truck break down and you have to pull to the side of the road, you have to make sure that that stuff is available and ready. You know, you're stuck on the side of the highway, you don't have that stuff here, and DOT pulls up on your state police, that's a problem. So, I mean, we probably want to look at all this. Again, this conversation is good, but we should make sure that we're all compliant, especially with trucks that are going over the road, over the highway. And I'm sure you would understand that, Nick, right? I mean, that your trucks have all that?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that might be something we want to look
that's
at.
something I do know that's something they do look at in their pre-trips when to make sure they have their flares and their jocks, and that's on we have our own list printed, and like I said, I think we go probably a little bit overboard, but the guys do a lot. I know when they're
well, we know
and they're not allowed. They're never allowed to leave.
Right, and they're going to check the weight and make sure the truck isn't overweight, and you know when they pull you over, they could have a field day with you. So we just want to make sure the truck is up to code and you know everything's working properly. And,
Well, is it the board's intention? I believe it is to send the other vehicles in for a inspection. Correct? We're no longer going to outsource that. So, is the plan to bring in the dump truck for an inspection as well?
So this is Anne Marie. As part of the town's economic regionalization, all town vehicles are being brought into the public works where we have our mechanics to go over them. So the dump truck is next to go. So once again,
has that been scheduled?
Chris, has that been scheduled?
Not yet. Not yet.
We'll bring it to you tomorrow.
Well, let us look at our schedule. We'll let you know. Okay.
All right.
This is Ben.
All right.
Can I just make a suggestion? Since we've got 4 more vehicles that are going to have to get checked, why don't we work to schedule time for each of those vehicles over the next however many weeks or months DPW has available, so we have a schedule for them to go in. We're not, doing this as catch can, because you just can't bring the truck over to Chris and go here and inspect it today.
Right.
He's got to schedule out his time.
Agreed.
DPW's got to block the time.
Agreed.
You would have to do with.
So, well, we'll look.
Okay. With that being said, if we do find anything wrong with it, we will pull it off the road immediately.
This is Maria again. I would say absolutely. If you find something wrong, I'm sure that you have Tony's cell phone or Chris Edwards' cell phone. God forbid if it's in the middle of the night, you can call them and they can come out and repair it because it is a town-owned vehicle.
Right.
Chris Edwards again. This is where your post inspection comes in very, very good. Nobody likes doing them. I understand that, but if you find something when you park the truck on a post, you could get it fixed before 2 a.m. So that's why it's very good to get your post trips done. I see my guys at the end of the day. Every one of them comes up, tells me if they have a problem. And then I try to get it fixed before the morning so we're not jammed in the morning. It's just a good habit to get into.
This is Jim Cortella. Chris, you're absolutely right. There's a importance of the post because you can go out during the day and then come out end of the day and do a post and find out 2 lights out, which they were fine when you left. So it's good to find stuff out and get it taken care of.
Proactive. You have to be proactive instead of reactive.
Right.
This is
Correct.
Ben Proto. I just want to remind the Veolia folks, last month when we talked about this, we had talked about getting cost analysis for a replacement of the flush truck in particular. And we were going to try to have that for this month, although I don't think it's there. So, John, if you can put that on your to-do list for next month on a flush truck on a replacement. We had talked about looking at leasing, renting, and new purchases. So if we could have that available to look at in regards to this 1990 truck that we have.
Yes, Ben, this is John Oatley. I actually have all that information.
Okay.
I just haven't summarized it in a report form to the commission, but I do have replacement costs, new, used, and also rentals.
All right, if you forward that to me, I'll forward it over to the board members.
Okay. And it's to replace as a somewhat in kind, not anything, no other features beyond what we have.
If that's what, if that is what, in Veolia's opinion, the WPCA needs to conduct the business with that truck, then yeah, that would be correct. If you think that the 1990 truck does not have that the WPCA needs in 2021 or 2020, then we should probably look at whatever features we may need and ensure we comply with current DOT and DEP regulations.
Hey, Ben, if I I hope I'm number 7. The back of that, if you're going to look at costs, why don't you look at putting a chassis to the current pump you have on it? Just my suggestion. And I hope I don't overstep my bounds on that.
No, it may be worthwhile for John and Chris to have a conversation offline about the best way to approach replacing this 30-year-old truck. So I want to make sure that whatever we decide to do, if we're going to replace it, that the vehicle meets the 2020 requirements that it needs for the purpose it needs to serve.
Understood.
This is Nick Kiyoshi. I have a thought on that also. That I don't know if you guys realize how much those trucks are or not, but did you ever think about putting out to bid an emergency contract to all the guys that own flush trucks, and you get a price, and for the 24 hours a month that we're actually using that truck, if it's that many, it might pay to go through an emergency contract with one of the vendors that has that equipment to come out when you need them in an emergency. You'll get a much better price than just getting a rental price on a flush truck but if you put it in an emergency type contract, I know I'm in a couple of them myself, and my numbers are much better when I know I'm going to do all of it instead of only an occasional. So just something to think about.
Yeah, Nick, this is John Oatley. We do have pricing agreements in place with vendors. We also have the ability to bring in resources from neighboring projects, North Haven, New London, where we have extensive.
So you have a network already like that. I get it. I get it. Yep.
The only issue with us, and the reason why we the truck it's nice to have the truck on site is just response time. That's all.
No, I know, but it's to keep that thing up to date at its age, and we both know what a new one is.
Yeah, I got the quote in front of me.
Go ahead, break it to him. You know.
It's north of 200. So
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
All right.
That's cheap.
Well, so at 24 hours a month, that's a lot of months, right? So anyway, and it's not depreciating. So.
All right, this is Jim Cortella. Do you have any other comments on this subject? So we'll get more information for the next meeting and try and resolve everything.
thank you, Chairman.
All right. Veolia Water reports.
Okay. Ms. Walter Royals. I'll go over the, first before I even get going, I'd like to see if we can, I've got 2 quotes that were attached. One was for the grit chamber cover. That was $4,300 they'll take the old one, rip it off, and they'll put the new one on. We have the new one here on site. It's just the work needs to be done for that. That's $4,300. And then I have we had a quote last month, and I have ordered the chain for the bar screen. Now I'll have to get someone to replace the bar screen chain and take the old one off. I got a quote for $4,610. So I'd like to see if I can get those approved today.
We have the parts. This is Jim. We have the parts for the $4,600.
No, that's on order.
Northeast Water.
The parts for the bar screen, the chain, and the attachment comes with the attachments. It's $4,610. I'm sorry.
Right.
No. To replace he'll remove the old chain, put the new chain on for $4,610. But the chain and parts are on order right now.
Yeah, we approved that last time, right?
Yes, and I just got a PO from Tony about a week or so ago, so it's on order, and it's going to be 7 or 8 weeks before we see it anyways.
And the other quote was to install the existing carbon steel covering.
He'll remove the existing carbon steel that's all rotted out and everything. He'll remove that,
Right.
and then he'll put the new stainless steel cover on. Have to install the anchors and all that stuff. And he's going to have to use the crane for that.
Right.
Which is part of this. Because we've already approved him to do the bucket elevator to replace that chain. So while he's doing that, or when he's doing that, he can also do this cover.
Okay.
Walter, hi, it's Anne Marie. How often are we replacing those chains, or how often do those chains need to be replaced?
I saw somewhere, and I don't know how long ago the grit chamber. I've never seen that one replaced or heard of it being replaced. So that's 26, 7 years old, something like that. The bar screen has been replaced at least once, but I couldn't tell you if it's 7 years or 10 years.
We can get that information.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of a PM, and we have our CMON that we have to do.
Yeah, what happens this is John Otley Emery. What happens with the chain is over time it stretches, and there's only so much tension you can take up on the chain until it gets to the point where it has to be replaced.
It's also in a very, very nasty environment. It's in the water, out of the water, in the water, out of the water. So there's a lot of corrosion going on there.
A typical chain replacement would be depending on frequency of use, and then obviously the stress it's under, would probably be somewhere within the 5 to 10 year range. And the fact that you've gotten well over that on this one, I think, is a good thing.
This is Jim. It's basically a wear item, right, John?
Right. It's a chain and sprocket application, and just over time, just through constant use, there's really no
Moving
preventative
parts.
maintenance beyond that, other than just keep the tension up so you don't prematurely wear the sprockets.
No, and when I say preventive maintenance, I'm talking about like condition assessments, because for the CMON, we have to do an assessment, and then we have to do the condition of the assessment, how old are the parts, last time they replaced the parts, things like that. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, we have we do have a pretty sophisticated model that we built for the commission. It's available for viewing at any time, and it really pretty much lays out over a 10 to 20 year planning cycle when things like the bar chain and the grit screw, things like that, should be replaced, and the model kind of predicts when that should occur.
I'll have to do a motion on each one, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, can I get a motion to repair the grit chamber for $4,610?
I'll second that, Nick Ginosio.
Who did it first?
Thought I
Anybody do it
heard it.
first?
I'll do it first. I thought I heard somebody, but this is a bad connection.
Can I get a second?
John Uhelski, I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
John.
Aye.
Votes aye.
Aye.
And let's see. Can I get a motion to change the grit chamber covers for $4,300?
I'll make the motion to replace the grit chamber covers for $4,800.
$300.
Todd Smith, second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Nick Ginosio, aye.
Don, aye.
John Uhelski, aye.
Okay. Chair votes aye. It passes.
Okay.
Walt, do you have the maintenance also?
Sure. The operations, as far as operations, we're in compliance for the month of May. Everything was in compliance. Repair and maintenance, cleaned the aeration tanks, discharge channel, flow meters were calibrated, clean mechanical bar screen, channel area, replaced effluent and primary effluent sampler tubing. We pumped out and removed grit and sediment from primary number 3. Ralph Mann and Son, we had him come in and check the HVAC and had him replace the air filters to a MERV filter. This is to do with the COVID-19. And he opened a damper to allow more fresh air into the building. So we're basically in compliance with that. Performed thickener and belt press PM maintenance. Not the odor control fans, the roof exhaust fans in the dewatering area there. Jarvis the control boxes had to be replaced, so he replaced them, and they're all hooked up and running now. So that's been long coming, but it's finally done, and they work well.
Yeah, this is John Oatley. I would echo the fact that the improvements that those fans have made to the building HVAC is tremendous.
We transferred 2 lawnmowers to Public Works per Tony's request. We had Introl replace a malfunctioning primary sludge totalizer and rate meter. And we had a leak in the basement and wanted a plant water piping going to another pipe. They replaced that, and I think they're going to come back and add some stabilization to the pipe so it doesn't, it's vibrating or rocking or something like that. Okay, collection system, we marked out the lateral at Francis Drive, refueled emergency generator, Stop and Shop. There's a chain that holds the floats in Stop and Shop pump station. So we replaced that with some stainless steel chain instead of a regular steel chain, so it wouldn't rot. Rolling Hills pump station removed rags and debris and grease from the wet well. We still found rodent infestation at North Main emergency generator housing. We removed it. We have the rodent deterrent. It's like an ultrasonic thing, which was requested by the board about a year or so, 2 years ago, and it semi-works, but we're still finding some rodent hanging around the emergency generators. Not in the control panels though, so that's good. Floats at Titus and Peach were cleaned. Inspected Renee Street siphon outlets. That one's good. There was an odor complaint at 5 Jefferson Street. Lady called. There's no sewers on that street. I had gone out there, and there's 2 catch basins, one in front of her house and one from across the street. She said it's been odorous for 4 days, I'm sorry. And I didn't smell anything when I was there. Neighbor up the street didn't smell anything, and I had her come out, and she didn't smell anything at the time, but I gave her Public Works numbers. I don't know if they've followed up with that or if there's still a problem. But I think I have a theory of that, what that issue is over there, but I think it has something to do with the water. Hello? Confined safety training for May was confined spaces and permitted spaces, and the lost time accident was 13,016. That number on the first page is incorrect. The last page is the correct one.
Walter, Anne Marie,
Yes.
I want to let you know the Public Works took care of that matter.
Okay, great. Did they find something? Or you don't know?
I don't know if they found anything.
All right.
They found a dead animal.
Yeah, I looked in the storm drain and I didn't see anything, but it could have been in the pipe somewhere. I mean, without removing the grate. So the wind must have been going the other way when I was there.
Hi, this is Ben. Can I just jump in for a minute?
Sure.
Because I don't want to keep people on who don't need to be with us. Do we need to have Chris and Tim and Tony still with us?
Tony can get off because Tony and Chris were done with vehicles, but Tim will stay on because we're talking about the building.
Okay. I thank you, Chris and Tony.
Thank you for your time.
Okay,
Well,
bye-bye, everyone.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. We don't need to have people here. We can let them go have dinner.
Right.
Sure. Okay, the R&M budget that was attached in the after the report. So we're about $3,593 in, to the negative right now for May. Now that this may not be everything for May yet, but it's as of what we had at the time. So the budget it is $10,416.65, and we've spent $14,010.56 up to date. And so unless you have any questions, I'm done.
As far as the, this is Jim, as far as the vehicle inspections on the Veolia Water report, I guess we pretty much covered that, right? Does Walter has anything to add to it?
I don't think so.
We can move on to the income report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Jonathan Morrow.
Right.
Your income report as follows for May. We collected a total of, for sewer use, $154,438.74. Grand total of $219,018.27. Of note, we received a check from the town of Oxford, giving us 10% of what was billed for the phosphorus upgrade as mandated by Connecticut DEP. And that's it for May.
Okay. Anybody have, this is Jim. Does anybody have questions for Jonathan? No. Okay. You have invoices this month, I'm sure.
Let's go back, Mr. Chairman, if we can, on the fiscal year 2021 budget.
Okay.
I forward all of you a letter that I had received from Attorney Richard Paterla, who's town attorney for the town of Seymour, on behalf of the first selectman, indicating that the Board of Selectmen had rejected the WPCA budget that had been sent over to them, indicating that there was not sufficient information related to the budget, and they wanted additional information and more detail in regards to the budget. I also sent that to Veolia through John Oatley, and Veolia through John has provided additional information, which I have forwarded to all of you as well as to the first selectman. We received back today, I think I sent that to everybody. If I didn't, I apologize. Information back from the first selectman's office indicating that the information that was provided was better, but they still didn't think it was sufficient. John and I have had a couple conversations today about the budget, and I think John has some thoughts on how to best proceed. But at the moment, I know Anne Marie could probably discuss more of what the Board of Selectmen had talked about. The WPCA budget for the 2021 fiscal year has not been accepted by the town.
It's Anne Marie. So the selectmen rejected the budget because, as Ben Proto said, was due to lack of information. There was no supporting documents. Jonathan and I went back. I think we all went back and forth on emails on that one. What they want to see is it broken down by line item. And one of the questions they have is, why are we doing a 9% increase when we're projecting a $275,000 surplus at an 87% collection rate? So I feel, we could do a budget workshop. In the past, we've done budget workshops. There's a budget workshop done with this. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Normally, the past chair would sit there and do a workshop and go over what our capital plan is, what we need to do, what we need to replace, trucks, equipment, and we don't have one. I'm going to suggest that we set up a special meeting in the very near future to rework the current budget. Because if the budget is sent to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow, it will get kicked back.
Mr. Chairman, this is John Oatley, if I could speak.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I agree with Anne Marie. It would be my recommendation that we collaboratively work together at providing whatever level of detail necessary to satisfy the the requirement at this point in time without any explicit instructions. I just don't feel like we can, be able to address the concerns until I actually know what those are and what exact information we can help the board provide. It's pretty a unique relationship that Veolia has with the Seymour Water Pollution Control Authority, where we're actually helping you develop your budget as opposed to just normally providing input. So happy to do that. I think it's a great idea, Emily, to collaborate in a workshop setting to outline not only the budget but planning purposes, capital, repair and maintenance, etc. I think that's an excellent idea, and I would certainly stand behind that.
This is Anne Marie again, and thank you, John. What I want to make sure, I know we have a couple new members on the board, and again, I just want to make sure that the board understands that it's our authority. It's not Veolia's responsibility, but it's this board's authority to prepare the annual operating budget and to cover the same year as. And we also have to show what decreases. We have to include what our expenses are going to be, and we have to show a depreciation on the capital assessment that we have. And we didn't do it on this budget. We're thinking going forward in our next the board needs to set place as to we have to put together a 5-year plan. We have to look at NAFIS and Young's CMON that we need to do, which I don't even recall seeing again since Jim Galligan brought it up to our board in 2017. He brought it up and it kept getting tabled and tabled and tabled. And I really feel that this board needs to start taking control. You guys need to have the authority. We are the authority, and you need to start asking the proper questions. And we need to start showing that we're moving it in the forward, because right now what it's looking is that we're just, okay. Here, John, please do our budget for us. It's our responsibility to do the budget. Here, Jim Galligan from NAFIS and Young, tell us what we need, but we're not asking the right questions. We need that CMON, the equipment, population. What are we going to change? They're looking at regionalization. If we don't start doing what we need to do, you're looking at the possibilities of the Seymour WPCA not being there, because the regionalization authority is going to say, hey, let's go to Derby, or hey, let's go to Ansonia, or hey, let's go to Oxford. They were in before. Am I right, Jim Galligan?
Yes, thank you. I was on mute. Yes, that's right. Now, back in 17 or 18, we had proposed to do a needs assessment, which was the second stage of the CMON, and at that time it was tabled. We're quite frankly in a position right now where we could jump in and do that right now with the way the economy is. I can have a significant amount of that done in a short period of time, and it would give us a lot of guidance as to what we need to do as far as a 5-year plan.
And
this is Jim. It sounds like a good idea.
Hold on, I'm sorry. And Anne Marie again. And another thing that was brought to our attention is the quarterly financial reports are not being submitted to the finance board or to the Board of Selectmen as per the charter.
This is Jim Emery. There's supposed to be quarterly finance reports?
Yep, sorry, Jim. Quarterly finance reports showing comparison between the budgeted revenues and expenses and actual revenues and expenses for the month shall be submitted to the Board of Finance.
Okay. Well, that's information Jim Galligan's talking about. That's something we can vote on tonight to have him go forward with that.
If you have to make a motion to put it onto the floor first, second, and then voted.
So,
You want me to make the motion?
yeah, if you want, if you don't mind.
I make a motion to put forth that Nafis and Young start working on the CMON, the second part of the plant assessment, needs assessment, what equipment needs to be done and replaced, and bring it to the board's attention if possible by the, we are in June, by the July meeting. For the CMON that's required by the DEP.
Right.
Now you need a sucker.
Second that. I'll second that, Jimmy. Nick.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Jagodowski. Con Sosnovich, aye.
Okay. Chair votes aye.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on Anne Marie's and John Oatley's suggestion about a special meeting of the board purely to work on the budget. I would suggest, and Anne Marie may know best based on the Board of Selectmen schedule, that be sometime probably within the next 2 weeks.
So we can present it to them.
So we have a Board of it's Anne Marie Draganis. We have a Board of Selectmen meeting tomorrow, and then the next Board of Selectmen is June 16th. I would not say let's hurry up and rush, because I feel, and John Oatley, please correct me, and Mr. Galligan, and Ben, if I'm wrong on this, I feel that maybe 2 budget meetings should be done prior to sending this to the Board of Selectmen, because we do not want to get it kicked back again.
Mr. Chairman, I think Jim Galligan was waving his hand. I wasn't sure if you wanted to say something or not. But Jim, you're on mute.
No, it's just that when we get to the point we're having those budget meetings, I'd like to be included.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is John Oatley Emery. I agree. I think 2 meetings would be sufficient. However, having some guidance before the first meeting in terms of what sort of detail, would just help expedite making sure the information is available and presented at the first meeting. I think would go a long way. So if there's, specifics as to what the budget should look like, the level of detail, again, I'm not privy to exactly what it is the First Selectman's Office is looking for in terms of a budget. So if there's some sort of template that's available, getting that disclosed sooner rather than later would just help us gather the information.
Anne Marie, John, I agree with that. And with Jim Cretella being on the Board of Finance, I think he could help us with that as far as the line items go, and as far as the detail is broken down, X amount of money is for maintenance. Break that down. Is this maintenance for vehicles, or is this maintenance for, the vehicles? X amount of money is going for capital or depreciation, and what is that going for? This is part of a Veolia contract. What part of that from Veolia contract is going where? I think if we break it down by that line item, and Chairman Cretella can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how the town's budgets work, is it's broken down by line item. I think that much detail in it, it sounds like it's going to be a pain in the, a pain in the butt and very detailed, but I believe that is what the Board of Selectmen is going to be looking for, as well as the Board of Finance, because we're going to kick it to them afterwards.
Yes, this is Jim Emery. Yeah, they have the numbers they charge all the line items to put it in form, so you can look it over and check all the numbers.
This is John Oatley. I
kind of like that.
Although I think it will be, a lift this first time around. I think if we do the work now, we'll have a good template for years to come, where we're just plugging in data as opposed posted. So I think it might be a pretty hefty lift at this first time around, but I think it'll set obviously us going forward in a much better place for next year. So.
This is Anne Marie. I totally agree. If we, like you said, we're doing the heavy lifting now, but come the following years, it's plug and play, and we can just see how it's trending as well.
Sure. And we can even do a 6-month look back, look forward. We in Veolia land, we do a lot of budgeting. Obviously, we do a lot of forecasting. So we have, by we, I mean me and Walter have some, and Jonathan Morrow, some experience, in dealing with actual budgets. So we can certainly even grow it beyond just an annual budget, but we can do some forecasting for you and some projections, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Well, this is Jim Emery. The selectmen actually wanted more of a in-depth look of all the things we might need in the next 5 years for forecast.
That's like more of our capital plan, like a truck should be on our list for the next 5 years, right? The grit chamber, we're spending $4,800. I mean, granted, we haven't changed it in 26, 27 years, but maybe that's something we look at, 10 years down the road. We put a little number, let's look at the equipment. I think what Mr. Galligan is going to be doing, and Navis and Young doing with the needs and condition assessment of our materials at the plant will really help us. And I think that will help us together as a team, not only with Navis and Young, but with Veolia. What equipment do we have to start looking at that needs to get replaced? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think since the plant was put in, and I remember Mr. Chuck, God bless his soul, he stated some sort of belt that we had that we bought used, and it was still there when he was on the board 5 years ago, 4 years
Still
ago.
there now.
It's still there now. So that was when the belt press, when the plant was there. I'd love to say 1964, but I don't really think it was then back then. But when we took it over, right? So that's a long time to have a piece of equipment that, knock on wood, we haven't had to replace. And if that goes down, how long are we going to need that for? We really need to start planning and looking ahead.
Anne Marie, this is John Oatley. I will share with you that Walter and I do have a pretty sophisticated maintenance cost estimating model in place for the Seymour project. We can make that available and use in this process going forward.
Okay.
This is Jim again. Emery, I think Jim Galligan did some estimating for the belt press and the dewatering, right, Jim?
I used the belt press as an example.
Right. So he did doing some numbers on that.
Yeah, Jim, yes, I put some costs together to try and develop an early plan here, especially when we were looking at trying to get something done with for a referendum. But I think we missed the referendum window this time.
We did.
For the bond?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the bond.
Is that something, Emery, that we need to give him a number down the road so we can go through the town on a budget bond?
This is Anne Marie. I believe we're going to have to come up with some numbers, and we'll have to give them for bonding down the road. And just with the understanding, as well as the town knows, the understanding that any bonding that we do or any monies that we get clearly have to be used for updates with the clean for the Water Pollution Control Authority under the Clean Water Act, and any monies that we collect, sewer assessment, sewer fees, can only be used to pay with that. We can't use general funds to pay those bonds. That money has to come from the sewer authority.
Right. This is Jim. You'd have to use the WPCA's money to pay the bond fees.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to add?
This is Anne Marie. I just want to add, I know our collection rate is at 87%. Can we explain, or because this is going to come up, and this is going to come up as to why the town is at, 97% collection rate, and why is a WPCA at an 87% collection rate? Is there anything that we can do differently?
This is John Oatley Emery. I know we've been in consultation with Mr. Proto with our billing personnel about online payments, credit card payments, etc. There are some ways to improve collections like that.
But do you think that's going to change the 87% collection rate? Because that's sort of the number we've been at for, I'm trying to think when I got on the board, maybe 2016.
This is John. Yeah, this is John. I can't predict, but I can share with you that where credit card payments and online portals have been installed, the collection rate does go up.
So we can look at that.
And I've spoken with, and I apologize, John, I forget her name.
Melissa.
I was going to say Madeline, but that was my grandmother's name. And then Corona hit and everything kind of fell off on that one. I also think, and we've talked about this, I think one of the issues in regards to collection is that the government has trained people in Connecticut very well that you pay your taxes in January and July, and we send them out in April and October, which is off cycle for people. And that's not to excuse they're not paying the taxes, but bills become like a habit. And when you're paying your July or January tax bill, you tend to pay them all. And I know most towns either bill semi-annually or quarterly their property taxes and their WPCA at the same time. You have a unique little issue in your charter where your charter says you bill your WPCA in October and April, which I had hoped that might have been addressed when they did the last charter revision. But I think that's a bit of it as well, as it's off cycle for people paying their taxes.
This is Anne Marie. When we, the next time we go for a charter revision, we can actually put that in again. We'll have the charter revision committee look at that and see if we can change that. If we feel that would help the collection rate. But and you're saying that credit cards would actually bring up the collection rate from 87% to 97%, so it's a 10%.
This is John Lee. No, I didn't say that. I just say that it has improved collection rate. I wouldn't suggest that it's going to grow up by 10%. I wouldn't be in a position to speculate.
Thank you for the clarification.
This is Jim Emery. Does the town collect credit cards like that too for taxes?
Yep. Dana Flack, our tax collector, we could pay your taxes online with a credit card. Or with your banking route, your debit card. You can go to town hall and pay with a credit card. You can pay by check. So
yeah, I think it would help a lot because she's actually very good at what she does.
There's a fee, Jimmy. There's a fee. When you do it online, pay your taxes for the town. There's a fee. I think it's 3% or something. Right?
Normally, what I don't know if Seymour does it. I know we do it in Stratford. If you choose to pay online with a credit card as opposed to a debit card, which are different in regards to fee structures, the town charges you a fee to use your credit card, which becomes usually covers the cost of the fee to the town for the credit card charge. And I think Veolia does the same thing. When I talked with Melissa, I think Melissa indicated that Veolia does the same thing, that they impose a fee for the use of the credit card to cover the credit card costs.
Mr. Proto, this is John Lee, just for clarification. Yeah, it's not a Veolia fee. It would be either a town or a city fee.
Right. When I say when in your system you charge the fee, whoever would get it would come to the town to cover the cost of the credit card fee.
Yeah. Thank you. I just,
Yep.
it's being
Right, that's not a
recorded.
fee to the
People know
Veolia.
that Veolia's not making any money on it.
No, not making. No, that's absolutely clear. Not a fee for Veolia. It's a fee to cover the charge.
And the other thought I had was, if we send that out the same time as the rest of the taxes, I'm not so sure everybody has money to pay all of that at the same time of the year. I thought that's why we had split it up like that, but I'm not sure. Nobody ever told me that. That's what I always imagined is why we did it that way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially this year,
point.
when nobody's working,
Right.
You might find out that
I wouldn't be surprised to learn that many, many years ago, Seymour, like many other towns, was on October 1 on October 1 fiscal year. And many, many towns had the October fiscal year, and the state was on the July fiscal year. And the state forced the towns into changing to comply, to work with them. So at some point, I'm sure Seymour was on an October fiscal year.
But that still doesn't take away from the point I just made that I'm not so sure everybody would have all of that money at the same time of year.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. Right. I mean, depending on, I guess it would depend on what you look at, but the vast majority of people who have mortgages, their property taxes are included in their mortgage, so they don't pay their residential property taxes. They're paid every month to their mortgage company.
Yeah.
Not everybody,
well,
but the vast majority of mortgages
they still have their car taxes and their property taxes. We're all working, I think, so I don't know if we all realize what's going on or what some people are going through, and I just don't know if it would be a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Just for food for thought. Yeah, That's what I'm thinking. Not that I'm right. I'm usually not when it comes to budgets, but no. Anyway, that's what I was thinking.
Well, this is Jim. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Too many bills at once. Maybe just keep it spread out and make it feel better.
That's what I was. I don't know. What do I know?
Well, whatever the collector does in Seymour, she has like a 98% rate, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's 98% rate, and she's not afraid to threaten people with the sheriff and.
But it would also be interesting
right.
how many tax bills in Seymour are paid by a mortgage company, because they pay those bills on time every 6 months.
Yes.
Right. Okay, if that's all we have, we can move on to invoices.
John?
Mr. Chairman, I assume we'll do the invoices like we did the last 2 months. You'll go down and sign them.
Correct.
Would you like me to read them out to the board?
Please.
Okay. Your monthly Veolia Water invoice is $129,494.53. This is your standard monthly invoice from Veolia Water.
John, can you repeat that? Jonathan, it's Anne Marie. Can you repeat that number one more time, please?
$129,494.53.
Thank you.
You have an invoice from the town clerk for sewer lien releases for $360. You have a invoice from Ben Proto for a total of $1,666.84. You have a Comcast cable bill for $291.13. There is a bill from the MTA Metro North Commuter Railroad, which is their pipe, pole, and wire charge for $30. Under maintenance, you have an invoice that was approved for a multi-trode duplex pump controller. This is from Fleet Pump for $3,297. Under capital, you have from William Jarvis Electric, where the exhaust fans were wired up. These are for the odor elimination fans. Also under capital, you have from National Water main cleaning. This is for the Clean TV Perform mainline lining in Manners Avenue for the total cost of $23,040 even. That's also under capital. And that is it.
Okay, can I get a motion to pay and take care of all the invoices?
John Uhalski, I make a motion to pay the monthly bills.
Can I get a second?
Anne Marie Dragana, second.
All right. All in favor?
Don Sosnovich, aye.
John Uhalski,
Nick
aye.
Steele, aye. Nick,
Okay,
aye.
chair. All right, chair votes aye. We're all set there. Legal report.
We've already been through it. My month has been spent on vehicle maintenance and inspections and budgets.
Okay. I have a question, Ben. How are you doing with the outstanding collections in general?
Well, we haven't been doing anything because the town has instituted deferment payment, and there hasn't been any movement on anything. We can, and the courts have, or the court, the governor, that guy, as part of his executive orders, has prohibited the starting of any foreclosure actions, at least through the end of June. So we're just kind of sitting there until we're actually allowed to do something.
Do we have anything in the future to, like, the 10 worst amounts that owed to us?
Jonathan normally sends me, and I assume he'll be sending me sometime in June an update as to our delinquents. I know there were, I think, two who were two of our larger delinquencies. The town had taken those properties through a tax foreclosure. So that wipes out our tax, our fees, and of course the town does not reimburse us for that. They just take the property. But as soon as I get the update from Jonathan, we'll take a look at it. I'll give you the top 5 delinquencies, and once we get the governor lifts his executive order stays, if the board is inclined, we can begin to institute a foreclosure proceeding on those, which is what we had talked about. But now we're just kind of sitting, waiting for the governor to allow it to do things again.
On the real high ones, though, can you have some kind of a payment plan set up with the resident?
if they're willing to return calls, answer questions, answer emails, answer letters, which I'm happy to do that. We've done that with others and who are making payments or should be making payments.
Right.
And other than that, it's entirely up to them to contact us. I mean, before we go forward with, a foreclosure proceeding, we could move forward and I can make it abundantly clear to them by having a marshal or one of the town constables serve them with a demand letter so they know that it's more than just something they're getting in the mail. When someone knocks on their door and hands them an envelope, they tend to take notice of it a little more. So we could do that and make it a little more urgent for them to understand they need to contact us.
Right. I think that's a good idea. I'm sure everybody else would agree.
But as soon as we get, to the point where the governor lifts his stays, we can take more action.
Okay. Understood. You're all set then?
Yep.
Engineering report?
Yes, just a couple of things. As you know, we've been shut down for most of the past 2 months, but we're up and fully operational again as of today. We did get a notice of sufficiency from the DEEP regarding our permit renewal. So they did say that they can and probably will be asking for some more information, but our permit doesn't expire until September. And if there's comments that come up, we'll address them as they come in. As Walter had mentioned, the blowers are all wired up for the odor control system. So I'm going to be out there in the next couple of weeks to get the stone and wood chips reinstalled. And we had conversation with D&J Construction manholes that we tried to do last fall. And he's supposed to get me a schedule and get out and do them sometime before the end of the week.
Well, there's like 2 or 3 critical.
Yeah, there were
ones, right?
9 total. So I think at this point, I would recommend we take care of the 9 total.
Okay.
We may need more, this is Walter, we may need more manhole covers.
Need more material?
Yeah.
I thought we had approved some months ago not having to come back to the board for manhole covers.
I think you're right.
That you or I think Jim, you and I think Walter have the ability to spend up to either $1,000 or $1,500 to deal with those. So you keep coming back to the board to ask for approval to purchase manhole covers.
Walter, do you know how many you have?
I'm 7 or 8, I think.
All right. Well, let's. I'll be out. I'll be out there before the end of the week. We'll take a look at it and we'll see what we need.
You might need this Jim. You might need risers, Jim, too.
Now what they're doing is they're cutting them right out, taking out the frame. Because a lot of them, the frames themselves are broken.
Right. Are there some you have to rise up a little bit too sometimes?
That's right. Yeah. So that's why they'll cut them. They'll cut it right out and take the whole frame right out. Then put in leveling courses as is needed, and then put the new frame and cover on.
Install the ring and okay.
Yeah.
All right. You're all set there then, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any new business? In general? No new business? I don't believe we need an executive session for anything, right?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No. Okay. If that's it, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn. Dan Marie.
Okay, can I get a second?
Nick, I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, chair votes aye. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Jim,